All right, people, good afternoon. Happy Tuesday. I made that video yesterday not thinking that there would have to be a follow-up after one day and a couple of hours, but here we are. I even said in that video, this will probably be the last video I make about Russell Wilson until he gets benched or is off the Giants or however that story would end. And one day later, we get the official word that the New York Giants are making a quarterback change. So I guess we're making Russell Wilson videos on back-to-back days, and that's okay. I got no problem doing it, but yeah, it's certainly not what this channel has tried to be about ever since the direct connection between Russell Wilson and the Seahawks got severed. So just understand that this is just the way things worked out. I didn't think that Sunday Night Football, that Chiefs game, was going to be enough to get him out on its own, but it was. The Giants are planning to start rookie Jackson Dart on Sunday versus the Chargers. So they throw in their rookie behind a relatively bad offensive line against maybe the best defense in football. That's probably going to work out very well for them. But let's face it, the decision brokers, the power holders in New York, they're probably all afraid they're going to lose their job. So they got to try something. They got to throw something at the wall here that can maybe produce some excitement, some enthusiasm. And Russell Wilson was just not going to be that guy. So, yeah, Jackson Dart is the starter. And of course, the reciprocal of that, the effect of that is that our once great quarterback, the greatest quarterback in Seahawks franchise history, has been benched for the second time in as many years. He got benched for the last two games of the year for Denver 2 years ago, and now he has been benched by the Giants just 3 games into the season. So I'm definitely interested to see what happens next, because I imagine the only chance that Russell Wilson has to actually play in the NFL again is if he gets traded to probably the Bengals. That would be a team that is currently without a quarterback. They've lost their starter for basically the whole season, and they are 2-1, so they're probably thinking about trying to preserve something this year, and maybe Russell Wilson can be better than Jake Browning. But unless that specific scenario happens, this is probably the end of the road. And I'm going to repeat what I said in my video from Monday. It needs to be the end of the road for the good of all of us. Because again, this is one of the greatest players, and this is the greatest quarterback in Seahawks franchise history. And the last 4 years have been a nonstop humiliation ritual. He has played far more bad football than good football. I don't know if this is true or not. Somebody's going to have to check this. He might have the most starting QB losses of any quarterback in the NFL since leaving Seattle. Because in Denver, the first year he had 11 losses, and then the next year he had 8 losses. So that's 19. And then with Pittsburgh, he had, I think, 6 losses. That's 25. And then this year he had 3. So if you go from the start of 2022 to right now, I don't know if there's another quarterback in the league that has that many losses as a starter. So this has been a humiliating fall for Russell Wilson. And as a Seahawks fan, I don't want to see that continue anymore. What I do want to see continue is this wonderful arrangement from Sleeper. More on them now. Before we go any further into this video, I want to tell you a little bit about my friends over at Sleeper. Have you heard about the app, the Sleeper app? Download it. I'm going to let you in on a little something now. It's more than just a platform for fantasy leagues. Yes, this year, millions of users enjoyed playing fantasy sports on Sleeper, but there is so much more to this app. There are live stats, real-time updates, and visualizations on all stats. News feed is lightning fast. You get updates on your favorite players and teams. There is a chat you can use in real time to engage with other users about plays and performances. All kinds of fun stuff like that over there. So download the Sleeper app, the #1 sports app today. Experience it yourself. Use promo code SBN to get a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. SBN promo code. Back to the video. Welcome back. Yeah, I just don't want to see this continue. And if you're a Seahawks fan, I don't think you want to see it continue either, because even if you don't like Russell Wilson right now, if you have any kind of football IQ whatsoever, you do acknowledge him as the best quarterback we've ever had and the most successful quarterback we ever had. And right now he's kind of stepping all over that legacy. He's kind of, some people have even suggested he is playing himself out of the Hall of Fame, which I don't know how many times in NFL history a player has played themselves out of the Hall of Fame. Russell Wilson might really be the first if he is. So we don't need to see that continue, because at the end of the day, he is going to be remembered as our guy. Whatever you think of him, he will be remembered best as a Seahawk. And I think we, on some level, still want the best for our guys, especially once they retire. Right now, he's still playing. Maybe you still wish the worst for him because you don't like him, you don't like the way he left. But once he's retired, he kind of just belongs to us, and there's not really much else to say. Maybe you'll still resent some of the issues with his personality, some of the things he did that were not great. Like, I can tell you this right now. This announcement came down like less than 2 hours ago that Russell Wilson got benched. Last time he got benched, when Sean Payton benched him in Denver, I thought he reacted very poorly, and I thought he reacted in a way that showed his character in a very negative way. I'm hoping that we don't see that again now. I'm hoping that he doesn't come out with a bunch of basically slanderous comments about the guy who benched him in an attempt to distract from the fact that he just got benched, like what happened with Sean Payton. Like, I thought that was really kind of sad to see him stoop to that level where he's like, well, I got benched, so I guess I'm just going to burn all my bridges and talk bad about this guy who did everything he could to give me a chance to work my way back into the NFL's elite quarterbacks, and it didn't work out. I lost more than I won, and now I'm going to say a bunch of stuff about how he treated me or how the organization treated me that, first of all, doesn't really need to be said. It just kind of makes you sound like you're trying to distract, but some of it couldn't have even possibly have been true. So I don't I don't want to see him act like this again. I don't want to see him now come out with a bunch of negative comments about Brian Daboll or Joe Shane or anybody in that Giants organization trying to distract from the fact that he got benched after 3 games. Like, I remember thinking to myself 2 years ago when that happened in Denver, that was kind of sad. And he's able to do it in a way that kind of doesn't put the heat on him, but it's coming from him or somebody very close to him. Honestly, I thought the same thing kind of happened last year in Pittsburgh when it became clear Pittsburgh was done with him. You get that article that gets released that's trying to make Arthur Smith sound like a moron. And Arthur Smith is definitely not a moron. He's actually probably one of the best offensive coordinators in football. He turned Ryan Tannehill into an elite quarterback for a short period of time. So I remember seeing that and just thinking, yeah, that's damage control right there. That is Russell Wilson damage control. And I'm hoping that we don't see it this time. I'm hoping he just kind of takes the L and quietly sits on the bench in New York. Like I said, there's some possibility of a trade here. Apparently his contract is super tradable, but I'm hoping it doesn't go that way, because I don't want to see him play anymore, because he's not going to do anything. Maybe he'll have a couple good games. Maybe his numbers will be okay, but he won't actually be an effective NFL quarterback. And I don't need to see that anymore. I don't need to see him continue to prove that he doesn't have it anymore. I said this in yesterday's video, but it bears repeating. NFL legend quarterbacks, generally speaking, they don't cling to a starting job and play forever. They learn that they don't have it anymore, and then they sit down. You could argue that there was an exception for Eli Manning, but at least Eli Manning didn't bounce around. You could argue there's an exception for Brett Favre, but at least Brett Favre had one of the best seasons of his career in 2009 and then retired after he was terrible in 2010. So even there are caveats that don't really apply to Russell Wilson. So I don't want to see this continue, and I don't think a lot of Seahawks fans want to see this continue. So the Bengals trade is definitely an idea that will be discussed in the coming couple weeks, because obviously Russell Wilson wants to play. The last thing Russell Wilson wants to do is sit on the bench for the next 15 weeks and watch another quarterback play. And for all we know, if Jackson Dart gets hurt, it's going to be Jameis Winston who goes out there. I guarantee you that Malik Neighbors would probably rather have Jameis Winston out there than Russell Wilson after the way these 3 games have gone. And I know that Malik Neighbors had a nice game in week 2, but generally speaking, there's only one way Russell Wilson can get Malik Neighbors the ball, and there are multiple ways that Jameis Winston can get him the ball. Now, some of those ways end with the other team having the ball a little bit more than with Wilson, but I imagine a guy like Malik Neighbors would probably be willing to live with that. So I just hope this is the end. Yeah, Russell Wilson could go to Cincinnati and probably be a little bit more effective than Browning. But at the end of the day, it's the same thing. That Cincinnati Bengals offensive line is terrible. So Russell Wilson's going to get behind that offensive line. It's going to look really bad a lot of the time. And when he does get to throw, maybe he'll have some success getting the ball to some really good receivers over there. They've got one of the best 1-2s at receiver, maybe in NFL history. I don't know. But it is really, really good. But it's not like the Giants' skill position players are bad. And Russell still struggled and still got benched after 3 games. So, again, it's one of those things where when you are an all-time great quarterback, and I know that Russell Wilson is not on the level of the Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or Aaron Rodgers or Drew Brees or Brett Favre, or he's not on the level of those guys, so it's not exactly the same. But this is still a guy that I associate with being one of the more legendary quarterbacks in NFL history. It doesn't feel right when you just turn into this cruddy journeyman floating around the league, desperately trying to find one last start. Like, Joe Flacco's doing it, and it feels a little bit weird, but with Russell Wilson, it's felt even weirder than that. So let it end. Let it end. All right. See you guys later. Go Hawks. More stuff coming later, but I wanted to talk about this for a bit.